Point of View Future, the podcast about innovations and their makers for pace setters like you.
All right, episode number 17. Pretty cool. So you just mentioned it. We have not yet reached our 18th birthday, so to say. But I'm super happy that I can welcome you, Dr. Alina Nikolaou, right?
Yes, exactly. Thank you so
because
much.
No worries. I had a chance to practice it. I tried to shortly introduce you, and please, if I miss something or if I mess something up, there's a fair chance of both. You just please hop in and correct me. You're born to a Greek and an Austrian parent, right? And you lived in Greece until 17, 18 years of age?
Until I was 18. So older than the podcast.
Okay, exactly. Yeah, that's quite a similarity here. I see it now, as you mentioned it. I think you fell in love with the University of Vienna because otherwise you wouldn't have done so many different degrees. You hold a PhD, if I'm not totally wrong. You studied, you have a master degree as well and a bachelor as well. So, okay. Why so many and why? Curiosity?
Curiosity and just really enjoying learning.
Yeah.
It's just a joy of discovering new things and just following that curiosity from one subject to the other. But I actually do have a fun fact about another area that officially is on my graduation papers of high school.
Right.
But it's because of an error.
Okay.
So I graduated in German, English, and Latin.
Right.
And there was either a typo or some sort of bureaucracy mistake in my paperwork. And instead of Latin, it says that I graduated in chemistry.
Oh, that's quite a different thing.
And the thing is that after, you receive your graduation papers and you never look at them again. No. And 5 years later, you go back into nostalgia mode and you look at them.
Yeah.
And I was flipping through those papers 5 years later and I see chemistry up there. And it was obviously way too late to change it. I was way too embarrassed to call my school and explain.
Yeah.
So there's chemistry up there.
Okay, cool.
Which means that, I don't know, I can sign up to a university course with chemistry is a prerequisite.
Yeah. So you could follow your curiosity again and do something totally out of your current scope and start chemistry.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. Would look good on your LinkedIn profile.
It would. It would.
So after we touched that, do you know another fun fact? Because believe it or not, I have been preparing. First time ever for a podcast, right?
Wow.
Really?
What an honor.
Yes, and now I need try to impress everyone. Did you know that, because we know that basically you went through that very difficult time in Greece. That was what we learned. One of the things is you wanted to have a good education. So you moved to Austria and I think at that time Greece were pretty shattered by economical crisis. I was visiting Athens at that time as well, and it was truly something you could see and feel throughout the city. Now, did you know that The Economist voted Greece the top economic performer in 2022 and 2023?
Yeah, I read that. And as many other Greek people, we were very much wondering where that came from.
I think it is the case because Greece rebounded. That's also something I learned, and I think that's also something Greece and the Greek can be proud of. It shows also an extremely degree of resilience, but certainly you went through a mourning curve that was brutal. But at the end of the day, I wanted to sort of use it to show how biased humans how biased they are when it was not good, when there was this bailout and everyone was bashing how could that happen, but no one mentions that Greek did quite a good job in rebounding, in recovering. And this is also one of the things that drive me nuts, that we talk about the negative things over and over, but when things turn to the better, no one kind of brings it up again. So that's why I'm glad you read it. I thought and I hoped I could, to a certain extent, surprise you. I couldn't. But perfect handover. Humans act like that. Do you think that this kind of bias, and that's not us diving now in the AI topic, but a first teaser, would that be prevented by AI, this kind of behavior that you only talk about the negative things and don't pull up exactly right after but or and, since the 2021 rebound was massive?
I think that's very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an evolutionary biologist. It's not on my graduation paper, so
not
I'm
yet,
not.
But check your high school.
I'm going to go back and check. But this notion of reacting more stronger. Let me rephrase. This notion of reacting strong to negativity and negative information does come with an evolutionary advantage, right? It helps you avoid dangerous situations. It helps you stay healthy and live longer. And this is why we respond more intensely to negative.
It's all good. That was my mobile phone making noise.
I thought it's like some kind of effect when somebody says something very profound and there's like this.
It's exactly. It's like, oh,
too bad.
It's a good thing, and please listen to that carefully. I'm so sorry, but we just leave that in.
Leave that in. I love those little mistakes.
Good. Yeah.
So yeah, what I was saying is that this proactive and visceral and just very physical reaction that we do have to negativity, I think this is so much hardwired into the fabric of who we are. I think it's very hard to get rid of that just because of a new technology that is introduced. But of course, with technology comes new behavior, new socialization. So I'm sure there is an effect there, but I doubt that this is ever going to go away.
I don't know whether this is something good or something bad, but anyhow, we have to live with it, apparently. Second thing, what I learned about a few months ago is the Dunning-Kruger effect, which honestly I do love. It's possibly a bit simple, but at the same time it does make a lot of sense. To shortly for the audience, Dunning-Kruger, basically they say, well, you basically think you're smarter than you are, and you might overestimate your abilities, and the more you do that, the more you are caught in a bubble, so you can't really figure out that you're not that smart as you think, which is quite, I would call it a vicious circle, because it creates a self-referential system of not understanding that there are others that have more competence and you are not the one that has the competence. And that's also a phenomenon which, since I know the concept or the effect, I see it everywhere, basically. Possibly that's my own bubble I'm in. At the same time, this is exactly where I have high hopes that technology will allow us to hopefully create more transparent information that allows us humans to learn or stay curious, and from time to time that we are kicked out of our bubbles. Agree, disagree? Couldn't follow because I was mixing up too many things.
I mean, there's many things in there, but
Yeah.
that's a good thing. I was just quickly thinking, because you said the concept is something that everybody kind of sort of feels and knows already, but the concept really puts it nicely together with, the word, the effect, and the theory behind it. And I was just thinking that this is exactly the reason why I love social sciences, because they package phenomena that everybody kind of already sees and observes in their daily life into a system. This is also the reason why many people think that social sciences are not sciences, because they do not discover something new or something that has never been observed before, but rather give a name and a theory to something that is already out there. But coming back to your question, whether AI will help us, if I understood correctly, filter out information in a better way or give us a better access to knowledge, is that what you were saying?
Yes, making sure that we are also from time to time being mirrored, so that we need to confront ourselves with possibly more objective perceptions, and not the subjective ones I'm constantly doing. Is that going to be kind of a back and forth, or would you say people that are in their bubble, there won't be anything that will really burst their bubble, whether it's AI or other humans?
Look, I think the bubble conversation is actually a very, very interesting one, because oftentimes we think that people online do live or behave within their bubbles. They're only exposed to what they want to see and hear, which to a certain extent is right. It's this confirmation bias that we're striving to look at things that we already know and like. But at the same time, and I can look up the research paper and send it over afterwards if you want
Cool.
to add it
Yes,
into
please.
the notes or something. I
Yeah.
don't want to just put things out there that are not, evidence based. But there is a line of
That's
thought.
my job.
It's your job. But there is a line of thought and a line of research about the fact that online we're actually exposed to many, many different ideas that we would otherwise never be in our physical world. It's actually the physical world, the real world, in where we live in the bubble, meaning that usually my friends, my family, oftentimes also my colleagues will more or less have the same values and attitudes and opinions and socio-political background as I have. Of course, this might not be the case if you need to go to the dentist or you need to go to the movies and there's somebody who's going to give you the ticket at the main entrance. But in general, we do gather within groups that are very similar to us in the real world. And it's actually in the online world and the digital world and the digital media that we're exposed to a lot of people that think completely different than us, that post all kind of really weird things. And the difference, if you compare it to your dentist or your hairdresser, is that we don't have any personal connection to these anonymous or unpersonal little profiles that are showing up, meaning there's no connection, no humanity involved for me to better just accept and understand that, I don't know, my hairdresser might have a different political diet on their table. But if I see that online and this person means nothing to me, I'm going to get even more angry and even more intense about it. So this is why I think that the bubble conversation is so complex. And I don't know whether AI is going to make this worse or better, to be honest.
Me neither. It's just things that pop up whilst having this conversation. What you're just mentioning, by the way, a very pragmatic example. There were research that, the situation, you're driving a car, someone is too slow or doesn't use the indicator whatsoever, the guy behind you goes ballistic, they found out if you had a connection to the driver in front of you, seeing his or her face, being able, you wouldn't freak out. So basically, these kind of things where you think you're anonymous, you're in your bubble, in your car, and someone does something that is not how you would like to have it, people freak out. And that's as soon as you establish a connection, things are different because you interact So I would definitely tag along with what you said, that people are reacting more emotional to stuff from someone they even don't know, who just posted something which is really weird. That's brilliant example, and it does make sense. Well, it's true, but it's weird. Why would you freak out if someone writes something? I mean, it's like...
Yeah, but I do like the notion that the car is a bubble, especially because people do a lot of really freaky things in their car.
Absolutely, it's their cave. They carry their cave with them, and they're living in that cave.
Yep.
And that's typical for driving cars. I'm not saying that I'm not one of those guys who's from time to time thinks the guy in front of me is behaving weird, but that we leave that topic.
But
to
who
another.
doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't? When I was been looking into your curriculum, you did VR in your yeah. I had to touch that. So you were dealing with possibly things like metaverse, and I didn't use that word now for, I don't know, roughly a year, and I'm super happy, and now I did it again, so I'm very sorry for bringing it up again.
That is so 2023
it's
of
exactly,
you.
that's pretty... Yeah, my company would say that sounds like a dad joke. Yeah. So yeah, it's 2023, big time. We apparently missed us at AWE because we were also roaming that event in 2023 in Vienna.
I think it was also in 2023 at AWE
Yeah, exactly.
Europe.
Yeah. And I mean, we were in the US in general, but the what I like basically, deepfakes on other of your I mean, in general, the topic was trustworthiness, deepfakes, VR, metaverse. That's basically, I consider it, they are neighbors to each other, because if we are really going to have avatars, I honestly don't know if that's really going to happen or not. But I think the discussion from avatars towards deepfakes in a virtual environment, that's definitely something we are also discussing internally, because there I see tremendous potential for catastrophes, and it's already happening. Again, with the help now of AI, what does make faking things way easier. So looking back at your research, looking back at what you thought at that time is state of the art, what has changed? It's a blast from the past, I know, but what would you say, with the knowledge of today, what would it have changed what you were doing at that time or thinking at that time?
So what I looked at in my PhD, maybe to go those 3 steps actually back, is I looked at the extent to what exposure to 360-degree VR can affect positively or negatively your attitude towards what you're seeing, specifically in relation to social or political content. What that means, in just like in a nutshell, is if I watch a documentary about a Syrian refugee camp in 360 VR for 5 minutes, will I think, or will my attitude toward refugees change significantly in comparison to, for example, only a video or only a flyer? So a comparison of immersive modality on the one side. And in one experiment that I ran, I specifically compared whether it was seeing the refugees in the 360-degree VR video or not seeing them that made the difference. So we manipulated social presence by, on the one side, showing one part or one group of the participants the normal and typical, like the actual video, with the people and the tents and their daily lives. And at the same time, we had a control group where we showed them the exact same video with the exact same audio and scenes, but we edited the people out. And then we tried to find whether there is a difference in attitude change between those two groups and whether it was the people in the video that actually made the difference. Now, those, of course, are not avatars, so it's not really a metaverse-related conversation. But I think what has changed in terms of this particular conversation is that, especially around 2016, 2018, there was this big hype around VR being an empathy machine. I never looked at empathy, by the way. I specifically looked at attitude change, and I was measuring this, which is like a different concept. But I think, and I haven't looked at the research for a long time, because as everybody who's done a PhD afterwards, you get a little bit of a PTSD situation going on. But I think this has definitely been demystified. This huge hope that you can just, watch a documentary with a VR headset on and then suddenly run around and start signing petitions and helping the homeless is completely ridiculous. It's just a very mechanistic way of looking at people and their behavior. It's actually looking at a human and treating them like a machine, right? It's similar to me pushing a button where something happens. I felt that academia looked at humans as machines that simply put on the goggles and then something happens. But this is not the case, because we are terribly complex, and attitudes and behaviors and opinions and beliefs and everything comes in together. So there's barely an effect. And I think what I have seen changing is that from this very hyper positive, techno-optimistic conversation around VR, at least back then, we've now moved, in the context of AI, to a much more intense conversation that includes both techno-utopian views, but also very techno-dystopian views. So those poles, I think, have just become stronger and appeared in a more intense way. But regarding the metaverse, I cannot really say, because I never worked in that realm.
Be glad you didn't have to, because it was one of these bubbles. To be transparent, we never really believed in it. We were like, no.
What do you mean? You specifically never believed in it?
Yeah, basically in our company. I mean, we are dealing with that. That's part of our ecosystem, and we were like, it's not going to happen. We are not yet ready. You mentioned it also. If you do technology for technology's sake, then you just forget one pretty important aspect. That's the human being that supposedly should use it, and then you figure out whether it's adding value or not. So there has been a huge hype, and as always, hype cycles come and go, and then they come again, and then they go. And so we were always super skeptical, not super technology positive, to say it will happen differently to what we believe currently might be, how it will look like in the future. But we never thought that this kind of dystopian world where you don't interact with humans physically anymore, and everyone is living in his apartment, has a 360-degree synthetic world around him, and that's I couldn't, possibly that's a personal thing. I can't believe that I would do it. That doesn't necessarily mean that in 50 years it might be the case. Who knows? But we are still betting on basic human needs, and that's social interaction, which is amongst I still believe most important ones. And I mean, if Corona has taught us anything, then it's that people really do like other people around them. That's definitely a key takeaway. So metaverse, yeah. So that's why let's leave that topic. Let's leave that name behind. There are way more interesting things out there than the metaverse.
But may I just quickly add here? I feel that there's no need to put on the goggles, because we already have the metaverse in our pocket. If I look around, including myself, friends of mine, my mom and my dad, we spend 50% of our thinking about stuff that happens online. About who commented on what, and who said what, and who posted what. And it occupies so much of our actual time that a lot of the things that we feel and think are related to this digital world. It's just not strapped on our eyes, but we still give it so much more space. But yeah, that's on the.
No, I do understand your thoughts. Me personally, I think that the smartphone is going to find its place on our noses, but not like the current concepts. Rather, having a social acceptable way how to interact with them, not overloading you with information, then making sure you check something else where you truly can dive into it. Because what we all are forgetting is as a human being, we are visual creatures. 80% of our sensory perception comes through the eyes. But there are some double binds in that concept, because you can't walk and check messages on the display that projects information into your field of view. Basically, that would mean you either have to stop or you will stumble down the stairs or being hit by a car. So there are some misconceptions, and the industry has not yet really, they are starting taking that into account, because they figured out, the concept of glasses that totally take you out of the physical world, that's not going to work. That's probably, we created a matrix there, super simple. It's like dynamic and static, your environment and the wearer of glasses. If both is static, if you're sitting at a table, you can wear your brilliant 4K, 400 gram heavy glasses, and you can interact with it because you don't have to walk and nothing around you is moving. If your environment gets dynamic, things are changing, but what you can't cope with as a human being is walking in a dynamic environment. That means then you just can't overload humans with information. So this is a bit that's something you would love. That's a scientific approach, the physiological approach about seeing nerve, 3 million years of evolution. You can't just put goggles on your face and then it's like done. So there is a shift, and I'm positive that this shift will help to establish glasses in the long term, replacing our smartphones to a certain degree. But
who knows?
Exactly.
Who knows?
That's exactly who knows. That's why AI glasses are just going really through the roof, which is promising for the future of glasses. But
Did you know that the glasses, so glasses for eyesight, were invented in the Middle Ages?
Yes.
It's one of my favorite inventions from the Middle Ages. I think people always forget that. So
catapult and
yeah, but so many really great things happened during that time. Yeah.
The truth is, so many things already have been invented and are pretty good, but apparently we believe that we can do everything newly different. It's sad from time to time that we forget that things are already here. We just have to take advantage of them without making a big fuss.
Yeah. Or for example, we went to the moon without having the internet.
Well, I'm not so sure whether we have been there. No, just kidding. No, I truly believe there have been people on the moon. I do believe I'm the guy who was the second guy on the moon. Who was the second guy on the moon?
Who was the second guy on the moon?
Buzz Aldrin. That's also funny.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why possibly I'm always for the underdog. Armstrong, everyone knows, and Buzz Aldrin was apparently the guy who lost the scissors rock paper game in that capsule when they were approaching the moon.
What a wonderful story that reminds us that one of the most unique times in history was accompanied by such a stupid game. Like very symbolic for what we are as humans. Anyway, go ahead. We derailed.
That's a good point. Yeah. So now we covered a bit your research areas, your academic endeavors. Then, certainly, currently, your main task, I'd say, is to be. You co-founded. You're the curator and the director of TEDAI, which, as an explanation, is not like the licensed versions of TEDx that tries to kind of take advantage of other conferences and are very local. That's something you did, or you were involved in Vienna, and now you brought that. I would say it's a flagship conference in the TED ecosystem, the TEDAI, to Vienna.
I think I would call the flagship TED event the one that's taking place in Vancouver.
All
so
right.
the 5-day
right.
big flagship TED. I think the TEDAI format is more of a thematic, boiled down version with this.
Sorry, thanks for the correction. Okay. I meant it for the AI part, but the TED flagship, yeah, you're right. Sorry for mixing or not being clear on that.
It's a complex universe, I'm telling you. Even I get it wrong many times.
Yeah. It's good because today I had to, what does TED stand again for? And it's technology, education. Entertainment. And I have lost the D.
Design.
It's
design, yeah.
Right. So a very noble idea behind the TED conferences. But again, back to you. Last year, first edition of TEDAI, and we all learned there is going to be a second and hopefully a third, fourth, fifth, sixth again. So you were able, or it was so good the first time apparently that the decision was taken to follow up, which means you are head over heels already in planning.
I'm freaking out. Yeah. I look very calm on the outside, but in my insides, I'm like screaming. No, it's
breathing techniques. They help a lot
Yep.
to tackle stressful moments.
No, look, it's a wonderful privilege and responsibility to put this together. It's a brand that so many people associate with inspiration and moments of vulnerability. I have so many people that reach out to me saying, this TED Talk changed the way I think about human relationships, or this TED Talk marked my career, or it helped me through my dark times during pregnancy. You know, people have a very strong connection with the brand, and creating a space where you enter and there's not only TED Talks, but there's other people that love the format, that love learning about things and connecting around those things with each other is a lot of work, to be very honest. It does take a really good team of good and creative and hardworking people, but it's also a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun and joy.
So what are you looking forward the most? These team spirits things, because I know the dynamic, this is brilliant. And then when really it starts, and then even if it's successful, that's endorphins floating your system. But do you crash after the event? Like, is there a big black hole for the first 7-10 days?
There is a big black hole the next 2 days, I'd say, simply because, just like you said, this enormous wave of happiness paired with exhaustion and the buildup of months and months of looking at each detail. I mean, when you come to a TED conference, whether it's what we do with TEDAI here in Europe or to the flagship in Vancouver, you can really feel that everything has been thought through. And all of the details, they do come from somewhere. They come from individuals that spend time and energy into making this happen, and all of that builds up. And then after the conference, on the one side you feel, okay, I don't have anything to do right now. Of course there's always stuff to do, but there is an odd peace and calm that comes with it. And as a team, I don't know, everybody deals differently with it. Sometimes we get together to watch a movie, to still be together without actually working on anything. Or we'll do a retreat, or we'll just sleep 48 hours through. But yeah, you're totally right.
I think the worst moment is when they start tearing down the booth, or, the signs of the event, when you finally realize it's over. People have left the halls, and then the build the booth guys comes in and start tearing. That's for me. That was always like and then it's like pulling the plug from 180 to 0 within 30 minutes. So I can relate to that.
You know how this all relates to AI? I was telling the other day to my husband and some friends that I find it so terribly beautiful how us as people and humans, we spend so much time on creating something that goes by so fast. This can be either a conference that goes by in 3 days, but
A
people
wedding.
or a wedding, yes. Or I was at a beer brewery last year and they gave us a tour and they explained how they're making the beer and there's thousands of people working on the temperature and you drink that thing in 10 minutes or more
Or less.
or less
Depends, yeah.
and I just feel this immense work that people put into a product that is just going to be consumed very fast. Even movies, right? Music is also something similar. What happens when many of these processes are being replaced by AI? We spend so much time obsessing about automation and the robots and what do we do and fake memories, but there's this potential very plausible and realistic wave of unemployment that is waiting out there for us, whether it's in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. And I haven't seen, even though even though I think I'm a very active reader in that regard, I haven't found one good idea or one good solution to that issue. And this is something that I'm in general very afraid of because this is a practical issue that's just most likely going to come.
Yeah. And the question is, can we put it into a framework we create? Like, where there is a decision-making process that involves humans to say, okay, this is where we allow it. This is where it makes sense because we could take those humans and bring it into other jobs, as an example, where they can add more value to, because that's where people are missing. So we can replace this kind of manual labor with something different. But that has always been since the age of industrialization. That has been a very repetitive cycle, and every time people were freaking out. I mean, steam machines, serial productions, Henry Ford with the first production line, and I mean, this is always happening. I think now it's a bit more. Well, a bit more is a very downplayed. I think now it's really truly at the core of where we believed in the past we are unique. That this kind of fear that we are going to be replaced by an AI that teaches other AIs, learns from it, and really becomes self-referential. I think that's possibly for anyone out there something that at least scares them, and worst case really, makes them become depressed about the future of humanity.
Yeah, I mean, all of the problems that do come with that, yes, I mean, they maybe have occurred in the past, obviously, but this doesn't mean that we shouldn't learn out of the past.
Big time.
What it means is people are going to get unemployed.
Yeah.
People are going to become poorer. They're going to become angrier. They're gonna political conflict is much more likely to break out. Interpersonal conflict is much more likely to break out when you're poor and when you're struggling and when you feel there's no control from the people you've voted for to take care of these issues. I think down the line people will suffer from that, and especially because this has happened in the past through the introduction of other technologies, we should just be wiser and come up with a better plan this time to mitigate the risk. And I don't see that really happening.
I agree. I think what we took away from these lessons, or not we, but possibly politicians or whomever, is like, but we somehow managed. This time, I'm not so sure whether the scale is just not comparable to what happened since the 18th century till here. The speed is enormous currently. Hard takeoff is probably around. Is it happening? I'm not the expert, but it seems as we are. I mean, what we believed would be doable and how long it would take. I mean, wow, the last 12 months was like, for real? I mean, even the experts were like, no, I didn't see that coming. So the predictions, they are right, but the time frame within they are happening is way shorter than we all assume. So I see a huge tsunami of things rolling towards up. We have not really thought about how to deal with it. It's just happening. I'm not a regulatory guy. I don't know whether the AI Act is good or bad, truly, but there is some. I think we need to create a sense of urgency. If we just let that happen, Alina, I'm not so good. I'm not so sure whether that is going to have a good outcome.
Yeah,
I don't think so. From a societal point, no. I have my doubts.
Shall we change to a more positive?
Yes.
more
But this is the
positive frame?
perfect. No, but you have to talk about that. That's one of the things when we were sitting here before the podcast started. I mean, either you can duck away and pretend things are not happening, or you at least confront yourself with what's going on out there. It might be super scary and challenging, but come on, if there is a chance, try to grab it and make it different. So no harm done with some dystopian outlooks as well.
And I do hope that there's economists or work experts out there all over the world coming up with good systems, good frameworks, good ideas that are easy or relatively easy and affordable to implement, because we'll definitely need them. And we do have so many smart people all around the world, but I would wish for those people to obsess less about Terminator and much more about an upcoming unemployment wave.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. And there are startups that are on a very good trajectory to bring some safety nets into the whole. So something is happening, Alina. I have not given up hope yet. I know that there are some things happening that might go into how could we somehow get control? How do we make sure that things are not spinning out of control totally? So I'm by name and reputation, no name, but by reputation, I'm a professional optimist. So we have to work on it, but I'm also positive that things could turn out well as well.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Because that's perfect. Your antidote to these kind of thoughts is your love for poetry.
Yeah.
Is that a theory that might be, or is there a thesis I'm just slamming at you? That's really, I mean, that's exactly the opposite. That's an antidote to dystopian, technocratic thoughts.
Not really. I mean, you can write a very
you're right.
Dystopian poem and
don't
go wild there.
Don't now break that bridge I was just building.
Go on building.
I have to find a new approach.
I know what you meant.
No.
I know what you meant, and I agree to a certain extent. I think that for me, the reason why I find a lot of joy in writing, whether it's just literature or poetry, is that it forces me into a sense of presence that I do not have in other areas when I'm at work or out with friends. What I mean with that is there's a feeling of stillness and calm when you engage in an act that only revolves around yourself, that includes creative expression, and that does not include a phone or another digital medium or some sort of object distraction. So I do like writing simply because it forces me into this zone of focus and presence, and that it makes me feel that I connect with my inner self and the inner voice that I have in my head. regardless whether the poem is gonna end up nice or not, whether I'm gonna go out on a stage and share it. And there's many really interesting poetry clubs in Vienna, one of which I've also co-founded. So there's like really interesting spaces to also share this artistic expression. But for me, poetry and writing definitely is a good space for that presence. And other people, have cooking.
Yeah.
Other people have pottery or whatever. I mean, juggling, weird hobbies that people have. But this is also I wouldn't call it an antidote, but it's just a place where I go to connect with myself.
And you were mentioning, going on a stage and give access to your thoughts. That's the ultimate way of showing vulnerability, showing who you are in emotion. So this is why it always touches other people, and that's why I thought it's kind of a antidote, might be the wrong description. I was lucky enough that I was attending a humanistic gymnasium. So this
no
is
chemistry there.
No, not even in my no. I have to double check after.
Please go back home and check. Yeah,
possibly no. And you know what? This sometimes just thinking again, and letting that thought linger, and then following up on it. That I totally agree. I still have an ink pen and paper. That's how I do my stuff. I need this haptic, and I need the calmness to write things down and to. That's how I do it, and it helps me. So reading, but then I'm not into. I probably I wouldn't be that bad at poetry slam, because I love watching that. But it's a. I like the philosophy behind how you just described it.
So there's of course poetry slam, which is very performative. So if you go to a poetry slam, there is a competition actually going on, right? So you're voting for the best poetry performer of the evening. And I remember that around 2015, a friend of mine and I, we thought that, that's interesting, but at the end of the day, I don't really care about the performance. I just want to hear what you wrote, and I want to know why you wrote it. So we founded a poetry association that's still going on. So my friend Christina is still running it, and running it even more successfully than when we did it together back then. And you basically go, there's people from all over the world, all of them living in Vienna, and there's 2 chairs like we have here. One person is reading the poem, the other one is listening. There's an audience sitting and listening to, and after the poem is read, the audience and the host get to ask questions. Cool. What inspired you? What is your favorite line? Or just a comment. Hey, I can relate to that. I feel that I've gone through the same thing, but maybe expressed it in a different way. And those evenings are always just so wonderful and peaceful, and you can really see people not on their phones, not distracted, just immersed in a sense of presence that you wouldn't get otherwise. So I love going to events. Unfortunately, often or most of those events are professionally related. They're conferences, and they do come with a lot of fun too. But I think there's so many other beautiful events in the arts that professionals disregard because they maybe not have time or they don't know somebody to go there with. But I always recommend, if you have a free Friday evening, get a good friend or go alone and join a poetry reading. You're gonna either really love it and come back, or not and have a good story to tell afterwards, most likely.
Oh gosh, did you listen to that? But you know what? It doesn't matter what other things. It's the only thing what is important for the creator. Is what he or she created. So that's why I have a high level of respect for people going on the stage and really put their heart on their tongue and let it out, because that's the ultimate exposure to others. So cool. I really, because I think the TEDAI, I think people should just figure it out for themselves, visit your channels, get a grip, and just go there. I'm rather inclined to discuss or to get an idea on what you think about the current status. Like perception, hypes, really staying now in today and not going too much back. What's currently happening? And not, again, trying to prevent us from going into, we're all going to die. Yes, we do at the end. But really the question, where are we now? What's the current status quo of AI? What has been debunked? What is currently grassrooting? Or how would you explain it to a 12-year-old teenager?
Jesus Christ. Again, I mean, I'm not an expert. So basically what my job is finding the experts.
Yeah.
What I just saw over the past weeks is, of course, this huge conversation sparked by DeepSeek.
And there is a second one that just surfaced today or yesterday from China as well.
Yeah, but I think this general conversation, which I think is a very interesting to have, is what is the amount of energy and data and computing that is needed to get where OpenAI is, or any other big LLM or similar project. I think this is something that many people believed to be a very already set in stone conversation until 3 weeks ago. And this example, and I'm sure there are many others that I'm not aware of, just broke up this conversation a little bit. And what I find very interesting and very current is that it breathed more life into Europeans' approach to AI. I mean, the AI Paris Summit, the Action Summit, just took place last week, in the last 10 days, and there's a lot of money in AI. There's a lot of investments and promises from the European Union and the European perspective into this technology. I think this is a very positive sign. I also felt that there's a conversation around opportunity and positivity that has been missing. But at the same time, while you ask me what is current, I feel that we're still very much obsessing around a language of arms race and Cold War narrative when it comes to AI. It's always about the geopolitical race and China and the US and Europe. And I feel there's much more cross-border collaboration going on with research institutes and companies working together, and that while there definitely is a geopolitical layer to it, because AI can definitely be used by geopolitical powers, I miss this more collaboration-oriented narrative. But I hope that given the recent developments and the recent investments, that might change a bit.
Brilliant, because it made my gears whirring again. I definitely tag along with. Suddenly there's this dynamic in it again, because 3 weeks ago we were thought, we're sold to 3-4 players and they're going to
dominate us forever.
Exactly. Really, this is how it felt like. And as a European, you felt to a certain degree helpless, like that's going to happen without us. And then kind of tide, I don't know whether the tide turned, but as I said, this DeepSeek thing was like out of the blue, and you could see how many people it suddenly felt obliged to, oh no, it's a copy of. It's still apparently none. So super interesting. I was really, 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 really happy about this Macron initiative. I was super positively astonished what came out, because I still believe we have a stake in that thing. I do think it is a race, because there is so much at stake. So I really think it's going to be us / Europe and them against whatever. It is, unfortunately, something that has it's a defining moment currently. So who is going to come out on top? And from a personal point of view, I like competition. Me personally, so I consider myself being a very competitive person without becoming unfair. But I like, yeah, we have to get better. We need to work on our stuff. And I constantly think that's what Hermann Hauser once said, founder of ARM, an Austrian, now a very famous VC. We were on a panel with the EU, and he said, I've never met a boxer that was fighting so way below his weighting class. Europe has so much more punch if we collaborate, cooperate, and get our things aligned. And then I'm not scared about the future. Then we have our reason to exist also in that race. And it is a race to a certain extent. Possibly someone made it look like a race, $500 billion investment into the US, into XYZ. But I'm super positively surprised of the dynamic that is currently again in this topic. And what you also mentioned, what kind of, I'm not yet sure how this will at the end look like, but we all were like, crypto mining, that's so power consuming. I mean, this is kind of kindergarten games when it comes to feed these server farms that are there to teach the LLMs and to really fuel the AI developments. So that's also going to be interesting, by the way, because I think there is a gap of roughly 200 terawatt in Europe. If you really would have all these fully fledged models and you have them out there, then we are really missing a lot of power generation. Very simply put. So where is this supposed to come?
I have no idea.
And I that was rhetorical.
Actually, in my pocket, there's
exactly. This is, by the way, I just wanted now to show that to the world and to launch it today officially. That's the pocket nuclear power
and it's
plant.
It's not only energy consumption, it's also a lot of water consumption.
Oh yes.
At TEDAI last year, we brought Charlie Ren, who's a very, very a brilliant computer scientist from. He's based in the US. He does research on the water consumption of
cooling,
of
right?
AI. It's cooling. It's all kinds of. You cannot imagine. The talk will be out next week, actually. Right. So on the 27th of February, speaking today.
Yeah.
And I'll be sharing it with you as well.
That would be brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, there's this constant two-edged swordness that comes with AI, right? On the one side, this promise that it will help us solve those crucial climate issues, but at the same time, it's only making climate issues worse until that magical point where it's going to help us crack the code, which is a very weird way of thinking about it, because let's be very honest, if we really wanted to, and if there was a proper political and financial commitment behind climate initiatives, we could have already fixed certain parts of it for the past 20 years. Yeah. It's not that we now found out that there's a problem and we're still waiting on AI to help us. So this is why I'm a bit pessimistic on that end, to be very frank. But yeah, I have no idea where the energy, especially in Europe, is supposed to be coming from that.
Yeah. Big question mark. And what you just mentioned, I don't know why I constantly come up with these car analogies, but it's like if you drive your car faster, then you get quicker to the next filling station. No, because you're consuming more fuel, so you wouldn't reach it. It's a misconception. It's like if we now push the earth, hoping that AI will solve those issues, I think that's a super dangerous game we're playing. I don't think that's the right way to approach this problem. But again, very subjectively, my take.
Yeah.
So, do you know what's happening with Macron? They are following up already, or what has concretely been already decided? I think there were 150 billion euros committed to that AI initiative. Is there anything out there that shows kind of how it's followed up?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I mean,
Me neither.
I'm sure there's definitely 500,000 different articles about the next action steps, but I'm not well read on the subject.
I think the leaders in Europe are currently pretty much occupied with figuring out what Mr. Trump and is doing with Ukraine. So I assume that's kind of covering
just
the
wanted to
follow-ups.
say, there's other bigger conversations on the table right now.
Yeah.
But I think the overall question you're posing is a very good one. Promises are easy made. The question is, how do you implement it? What is the time plan? Who makes those investments? How do you follow up on them? How do you report on the quality behind those promises? And this is something I guess everybody is going to be watching and looking out for this year.
And that brings us back to almost square one. It's about I love get shit done. You can talk a lot, you can wish for a lot, you can hope for a lot, but at the end you either are proactive and you work on it, you dream of something. TEDAI Vienna, that is something you can't plan over 10 years. So apparently it's about really rolling up your sleeves and doing things, and that's still, in these very turbulent times we're living, it's still the key to making a difference. It's by the way not famous last words. It's really like just I'm trying to. It's at the end it boils down to this. I don't know, what is it? Character trait, motivation, discipline, whatever. But walk the talk. I think if we more often walk the talk than to talk the talk. I just lost
but
myself.
I know what you mean, and I mean, to be very frank, I'm very much fed up with fake AI experts on LinkedIn and other similar platforms just swamping the place with stupid predictions that they know nobody will ever check upon them again, because in 5 months' time people will already be swamped with another news and hype cycle. I think it's because there are so many formats out there where people can just share their ideas, and I love ideas. This is why I'm curating an entire conference around ideas on AI. But there's just it's so easy to just sit around and talk about things, to be a little bit self-reflective as way, and it's so much harder to sit down and have the discipline to go through the hard parts of doing the work. But I think there's a lot of people out there that we have never heard of that do fantastic work. This is also one of my biggest joys at what I do as a curator is proactively searching for the people that are not on the main global stages, that are not
hidden gems,
that are not Forbes 30 under 30, and
that's
I went there.
That's not usually that's not good when you're Forbes 30 under 30, because that you might end up.
No, there's a beauty in people that are humble, that know where their knowledge ends, and that are very driven behind a cause and would rather stay back at home and work on their mission rather than coming to a conference to talk about the mission. But of course, it's still important to have those spaces to really share your intellectual work with others that are interested, and finding that balance and finding the people that fill or that fulfill this profile is one of the things that I love doing.
I think from time to time there are topics and they need a loudspeaker, because not every person does want to go on a stage, and that's something you need to accept. Just looking at my own company, I consider myself not being able to understand truly everything that's happening in my own field of expertise, but I do know that they provide me with the knowledge that at least I'm not talking rubbish on stage. But I couldn't bring them on stage. They just said no. So finding those guys who have the in-depth knowledge and are willing to go on a stage, that's truly a challenging. That's a challenging endeavor.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I'm getting every day. I'm getting so many messages
They
of
would like to be on stage.
people, yes, telling me, look, it's on my bucket list to be a TED speaker, and I'm like, I don't care. I just
right.
do you have a good idea? Is that idea new? Is it original? Again, I'm never scouting for speakers. I'm scouting for ideas. That's something completely different.
Yeah.
And I do understand the need and the wish to be seen, because what it all boils down to with public speaking is the wish to be seen and heard in a very vulnerable moment, which you maybe are not getting in a different part of your life, or you just have fun on a stage. That's totally fine. I just think that, and I'm always very passionate about it. I think TED, for me at least, is this very beautiful stage for pop intellectualism, or for complex ideas explained in a simple and persuasive manner. It's about taking the most magical parts of science and making them understandable and approachable and digestible to many people all around the world. Science, tech, the arts, pick your favorite topic. And it's about an idea that you think should be heard by a global audience. That's a big thing.
Yeah, and
me.
you shouldn't ruin that with people that don't value this concept and just take it for personal reasons, like on my LinkedIn profile, TED speaker, these kind of things. So I think making a selection between those guys, those people that really bring content to the topic, then you might also accept this self-promoting aspect. But there are more than enough bullshitters out there. I always consider, by the way, for me, it's AI experts currently are crypto experts turned metaverse experts turned AI experts, and I'm not yet so sure what's going to be
the next
thing, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And again, the way that we curated TEDAI is there's several proposals, reviews, a lot of fact checking that goes pre and post conference. There's so much work behind putting this idea together, and people oftentimes, they forget or they don't know how much work it is.
And you're actively accompanying them, right? It's not like, oh, this is my speech. It's really a back and forth. It's a process.
So that's what I do is I sit down with the speaker after they've been confirmed. So after already they've submitted proposals, reviews, I sit down with them, and I'm trying, if possible, to support boiling down usually a huge project into crisp and persuasive 15 minutes. Sometimes that might just take 2 calls, simply because the speaker has time and a good vision. Sometimes it might take 8 calls, and in each time there's a lot of fun and brainstorming and creative writing involved. And what I wanted to say beforehand, the reason why I love what I do is that we don't pay speakers, and speakers do not pay to be on the TED stage. There's a very clear and strict editorial line there. You just can't, pay your way to the stage. I don't care how deep your pockets are. This is about quality. And you can really feel it when you come to the conference. You're like, okay, those people are there because the ideas are good.
And it's not also about quality, it's also about equality. Because it doesn't matter how deep your pockets are. Everyone that has a good idea, vision, can go there without all the spots being blocked by the corporates that just pay to be up there.
Yeah. I mean, look, we do at TEDAI, we do have strategic partners that come in with tremendous industry expertise that I would never find anywhere else. And they're coming in and they're really helping us shape the program. They're helping us shape spotlight conversations with them and the speaker, not in 15 minutes like with a talk, but really in 1.5 hour deep dive panels where the people in the audience get for 30 minutes, 40 minutes to ask questions. They get to curate sessions with me on one of the days. But the holy grail, the TED stage and the main TED talk, this is really reserved for TED speakers. And strategic partners value that, and the audience values that. There's this area of respect around that, and I really, really love it.
I definitely, I haven't been able to because I'm not focusing on AI, so I was not trying to visit the event. I'm fully transparent, and I have enough things on my table, on my plate. I'm struggling with, but it sounds so. I mean, I can feel the passion, and it sounds so. It makes me so curious that I definitely, if I have time, that I try to get a ticket and get on board, because it really sounds like the crowd makes a difference there, which sounds extremely positive.
Yeah. At TED, there is an application process also for attendees involved. So you got to apply to get a conference pass.
Okay.
And I think the first reaction of many people is, oh, that sounds very elitist. You're only taking the best of the best. But this is actually really not the approach.
Common ground.
The point is, first, I don't want to have people on site that are trying to sell things. If you want to sell your program or your product, I want you to convince people because you're having a great conversation around the topic that matters, not because already in the application you're telling me, hey, I gotta reach quota, and coming to your event will help me reach that quota by the end of the year. So this is one thing. This is a conference for the people that truly care about AI. And curating the audience also helps me to get an interesting balance of people. How many scientists do we have? How many people from industry? How many emerging research talents from universities are here? How many people from healthcare are here? And that really helps me get a better understanding of what the program should look like, but also how I can best surprise those people. And I think a wish that I have from last year is to see more women applying. Unfortunately, we had more applications from males rather than women or other gender identities. And we were playing around with different ideas. Should we make the ticket or the conference passes for women less expensive than for men? What are the consequences of this decision? Does it deter more women of joining us, or does it encourage them? And this is why we also decided to keep the conference passes just on the standard level how they were last year. But I would love to see more women invest in this 3-day and really come to learn and network. And this is a wish that I have for this year.
But even in my company, and we are a deep tech company, we are struggling. I mean, I'm part Swedish, so for me, women and men have always been on the same level. That's unfortunately in Sweden, how is it called? Gleichberechtigung. Jesus Christ, now the word is gone.
Equality, gender
equality.
equality.
It's gender equality. They do that for 120 years. So it's nothing to talk about. It's a given fact. But we are also struggling to get women. It's unfortunately, I would love to have more women in the company because I believe in the mix. I believe in, but I think again, it's very hard to force it and to set the right incentives. And I've just been attending the Europe's biggest and most important sports business conference in Hamburg, Spobis. And there was a panel about, if you play soccer, you have men's soccer, women's soccer. And it's about how could we attract audience, how could they get more women into playing soccer, what is with the sponsors, and so forth and so forth. And the discussion was extremely interesting because they made sure that they have a female founder of a football club on the podium and from one of the big German clubs, the managing director on stage. And they were discussing, and there is somehow, I'm not the expert to judge upon that. I'm just saying what I heard. And I said, well, the issue is that if you play women's soccer on the same pitch than men's soccer, because of the physiology of women, it just looks slower, right? They said, it's just if a man sprints, he is faster than a woman. So the expectation is, apparently by the audience, it needs to look similar, they said that's the wrong approach. So we need to find ways that the sport is it's dominated by men, and that's what makes it difficult to come up with great ideas that would make it also super suitable for women in it. And they discussed it very openly, and I was really astonished that you also can discuss these topics without becoming emotional or dogmatic. I was just following. I was like, I never saw it from that angle. They were discussing to make the pitch a bit smaller because then you have more dynamic. And I was like, okay, if this, again, listening to it, this is not me commenting it. There is in so many areas, there is this gap. And I honestly, in my own company, I have no idea how I could lure more female developers into Viewpoint system. The normal thing we do is equal pay. Has always been in every company I was having. I never think about making a difference there, but still, apparently, not so many women are choosing mint classes or studies. And that's the outcome. So unfortunately, Alina, I have no clue.
Yeah.
The only thing what I took away from this sports discussion is that by make it is easier to access, apparently that creates the opposite effect of being felt as being, what is the right word now? That you're not treated equally to men. So basically they're saying, well, I want to get there on my own without having a lower threshold of getting in. So that's my takeaway from the sports conference there.
I think coming back, because
Sorry.
we went into the sports area, which is of course very, very different. But I think coming back to my pain point from last year, I think two things can be done there. First, if you're in a company or you're a manager and you do have good women or women that you see have great potential in your team, I would rather see them come through your company rather than a huge male-only delegation. So really try to promote the talent and the potential that you have from female. coworkers, that's a huge thing. If your company supports you and supports your growth and your education through going to a conference, going to an extra training, that's a huge deal. And secondly, which I think we very often forget, it's very hard for many women that are successful in what they're doing in their work to just pack their things and go for 5 or 4 days to a conference at a different country, because unfortunately taking care of the household and oftentimes of children when you have children falls on the shoulders of women. So I'd rather see men telling their wife or their girlfriend or their partner, just go ahead for 3 or 4 days and see you in 5 days again, and just go have an amazing time, and I'll take care of everything here and I support you. I think with these two things, I hope to see, not at my conference, like just like in general, more events, more trainings, more boot camps or whatever you have not, more of women, or let me rephrase, I want to see more men investing in women's future, and I think this is a way to do it.
Yeah, good point. Nothing to add.
Mic drop.
Yes, exactly. And so that brings us very naturally to the last part of the podcast.
The one everybody's so anxious and dreadful.
No. There are no tripwires. There are no
explosions.
No, nothing. It's no. It's just very straightforward, very spontaneous, not more nor less.
Okay.
You ready? It's 10 to 15 questions.
Okay.
I decide whether I go through 15 or not. Usually I always go to 15. If you have nothing that pops up in your mind, say next.
Okay.
Try to be as crisp as possible, but if there is this inner urge to explain it a bit more, just let it happen.
Okay.
Good.
Let's see what happens.
Good. Word wrap. First app you open in the morning.
Emails.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird. By far.
ChatGPT or Claude?
ChatGPT.
More of a doer or more of a thinker?
More of a thinker. A lazy thinker.
Lazy thinker. That sounds...
Because I'm not doing anything.
That's okay.
I'm just kidding.
Best city for innovation?
Next.
So what inspires you more, nature or technology?
Nature.
If you could change one thing about the world, what would it be?
I'd like to have one extra day in the calendar for just fun stuff in the year, where everybody just does fun stuff.
You have that every 4 years.
Come on, that doesn't count. Where everybody just gets off and just, it's like a National World Enjoyment Day. That would be so fun.
Do you know what we have at Viewpoint System? We have once a month, the Inspire Day.
You go into nature, or what do you do?
You do whatever, you inspire yourself or you inspire others. You do something social, you take a hike with your colleagues, you work on a project you have never had time for. So we do that 12 times a year. Inspire Day. So
I was more thinking of going for tacos, but like good food. But hiking with colleagues is also fun, yeah.
12 times a year going for tacos might be too much. Oh no,
it's never too much for
understood.
a good
Understood.
taco.
I figured that out. Virtual reality or augmented reality?
Virtual reality.
Really?
I have to. Gotta stay loyal to my roots.
Okay. What's more important? Intuition or logic?
Intuition.
Now, bringing your science fiction addiction a bit into the questionnaire. What is your favorite movie about the future?
It's not a movie. It's a series that's based on a book. It's Foundation by
really?
Isaac Asimov. Yep.
I'm watching that too. So if you had to live in a science fiction world for a year, which one would it be?
For a year, and then it just returns back to normal how it was beforehand.
Yeah.
Ooh, I would go into H.G. Wells' Invisible Man. It's an old science fiction book. It's from the 50s or 60s.
I know.
You know,
Okay.
it's like
Yeah,
why not? Invisible for a year.
cool.
Do fun stuff while
Yeah,
being invisible.
yeah.
Eat many tacos while being invisible.
No one's seeing gaining weight because we're invisible.
Oh, that's not
that
the
would be my motivation. I think I know the answer, but I nonetheless ask the question. What's your remedy for a creativity block?
What do you think will I answer?
Having time to write on a poem.
But if I have a creativity block, how do I write?
Oh, sorry, block. Sorry. No, I mixed that question up. Now I why did you ask back? You just could have overplayed it. Now I look
But what was the question? So
no, what's your remedy for a creativity block? But I still stick to my theory, but I took it from a different perspective.
being creative without any intention, just writing stupid things, even if it's only the same word 500 times, just forcing myself into just doing it, writing it, and then hopefully something will make the switch.
Cool.
And if not, I'm half Greek, so I might have a little bit of ouzo and see what happens.
In German, ich trink ouzo, was machst du so? Yeah. And you believe it or not, last question. One thing you would never automate.
Personal relationships. With the example of, I don't want to have my digital twin having a call with a digital twin of my mom.
Without you knowing.
Without, even if I'm knowing it, like I don't, simply because I don't have time, or I'd rather watch Tiger King on Netflix. I don't want us to get there as a species.
Agreed. So, first and foremost, thanks for that conversation.
That was fun, Niels. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you said that. I hope so. I really enjoyed it.
It was fun.
I think we touched so many things. What for me sticks out a bit is I loved the parts talking about vulnerability, because I think that's an ultimate human trait, and gives us the possibility to grow. And we sometimes forget to talk about this because most people don't want to seem vulnerable. So that's something that sticks with me. I'm very happy that TEDAI is back. I learned that I never going to be a speaker there, which I never aimed at. But I even learned now that I won't be able to attend. But that's not something I'm concerned about.
Why shouldn't you attend?
No, I have better people in my company that do better fit the bill of those people you would like to have around. So, all good. I learned that. So thanks for the insights and for not having the frustration that I won't be allowed as an attendee. So I like the idea, so I don't want to make fun about it. So we're definitely going to send someone who hopefully is going to be accepted. Nonetheless, having a bit of a dystopian approach, I think we all should have as a warning sign somewhere on the wall that keeps us reminding that we should actively work on creating frameworks. I have to admit, I'm so happy you didn't come up with that Greece dialect. No, don't do it now. Too late. too late. No, you might.
May I please speak in Greek accent in my English? People love it. People love it.
I do understand that they love it.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
I wish you all the best for the conference. I hope you're going to push through that black hole after the conference very quickly, come out with new ideas, new objectives, goals, wishes, dreams, and challenges to tackle on. We need that. So I know I left out many other topics we touched, but this is kind of, I tried to give my perception of the vibe. So thanks very much for being a guest. I'm really looking forward to listen to that again, because we were pretty much
everywhere,
all over the place, yeah. And hopefully you're going to enjoy it as well. And I'm sure we're going to meet again.
Yeah.
So thanks very much for being our guest, Alina.
Thank you so much for having me and for this conversation on realistic optimism, I'd call it. And looking forward to connecting again and listening to that again. And
I have to ask, if you have a recommendation, GOPS was the reason. So the Syrian refugees, I know that was GOPS project. So if you have a recommendation, we would be super happy if you could share that.
What type of recommendation?
For a podcast guest.
For a podcast guest.
So sitting on the same spot where you are sitting and having a different, similar conversation.
I have a very cool former colleague from the University of Vienna that did a lot of research on misinformation, disinformation, and news avoidance. So why people don't like reading the news anymore. Her name is Dominika, and she's a really cool person to have a conversation with. Yes, please, if you would link us, that would be brilliant, and then we try to get her on board. Yeah, we'll do so. Thanks very much. Thank you so much. Take care. Cheers. Thank you.
This has been Point of View Future, the podcast about innovations and their makers. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, share, and rate this podcast. If you have any innovations you would like to share with our audience and us, we would love to hear from you. All links can be found in our show notes.